Monsters have always been a part of our stories, creatures from myths, legends, and even our own imagination. But have you ever wondered why we create monsters? Are they just made to scare us, or do they mean something more? In this video, we'll explore the fascinating history of monsters, starting from ancient myths like Beowulf's Grendel to modern giants like Godzilla. Along the way, you'll discover how these creatures reflect our deepest fears and the times we live in. So, let's journey into the mysterious world of monsters, starting with one of the earliest known, Grendel from the epic poem Beowulf. As Grendel is depicted as a massive, terrifying creature who terrorizes King Hrothgar's kingdom. Interestingly, he's described as a descendant of Cain, the biblical figure who committed the first murder by killing his brother Abel. This lineage paints Grendel as an eternal outcast, filled with jealousy and bitterness towards humans who live in joy and community. His attacks can be seen as manifestations of deep-seated loneliness and resentment. Moving to ancient Greece, their myths are full of scary creatures. The Hydra was a snake-like monster with many heads. If you cut one off, two more would grow back. This made it impossible to defeat. Then there's Medusa, a woman with snakes for hair. Anyone who looked directly at her would turn to stone. The Minotaur, another fearsome creature, had the body of a man and the head of a bull. He lived in a complicated maze called the Labyrinth and would eat anyone who got lost inside. These monsters often stood for things people were afraid of, like chaos or forbidden knowledge. In Norse myths from Northern Europe, there's a giant sea serpent named Jormungandr, also known as the World Serpent. He's so big that he can wrap around the entire world and bite his own tail. People believe that when he let go, it would start Ragnarok, the end of the world, filled with disasters and battles. In Japan, stories tell of Oni, which are demons or ogres known for their strength and evil nature. They often have horns and sharp claws and are used in tales to teach lessons about right and wrong. In India, ancient stories talk about Rakshasas, shape-shifting demons who could appear as humans or animals. They were known for tricking people and causing harm, representing the dangers of deception. These stories from different cultures show how people have always created monsters to explain things they didn't understand or to teach lessons. In medieval times, people created books called bestiaries. These were like animal encyclopedias, but included real and imaginary creatures. Some of these creatures were hybrids, meaning they combined parts of different animals or humans. For example, the Ono centaur had the body of a human and the lower half of a donkey. These strange combinations often represented fears of unknown lands and the creatures that might live there. Religion also played a big role in how people viewed monsters. Demons were often shown as scary beings that tempted people to do bad things, symbolizing sin and evil. Dragons, with their fiery breath and massive size, were seen as representations of Satan or the dangers of straying from the righteous path. These images reminded people to stay virtuous and avoid evil. During the 14th century, Europe faced a terrible disease called the Black Death, which killed about 1/3 of the population. To make sense of this tragedy, people personified death as the Grim Reaper, a skeletal figure carrying a scythe. This image became a way to cope with the fear and uncertainty of the times. These examples show how monsters and scary figures were created to represent the fears and challenges people face. By giving a face to the unknown, they tried to understand and deal with their anxieties. Let's look at how literature has portrayed monsters over time. In 1818, Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein, a story about a scientist named Victor Frankenstein who creates a living being from dead body parts. This creature, often called Frankenstein's monster, symbolizes the dangers of unchecked scientific experiments. Shelley wanted to show that not all scientific discoveries are good for society. In the story, the monster becomes violent, leading to the deaths of Victor's loved ones. Later, in 1897, Bram Stoker introduced Dracula, a novel about a vampire count from Transylvania who moves to England. Dracula could turn into a bat, control minds, and drink people's blood to stay alive. During that time, many British people were worried about outsiders coming into their country and changing their way of life. Dracula represented these fears of strangers and the unknown. Dracula's ability to turn others into vampires by biting them mirrored fears of contagious diseases like syphilis. Moreover, Dracula's interactions with women in the novel touched on Victorian anxieties about sexuality. His influence over female characters challenged the strict moral codes of the time, making readers confront their own fears about changing social norms. As technology advanced, these creatures found a new home in movies and pop culture, bringing our deepest anxieties to life on the big screen. In the early 20th century, silent films introduced audiences to iconic monsters. In 1931, Universal Studios released Frankenstein, featuring Boris Karloff as the misunderstood creature. The same year, Bela Lugosi starred as Dracula, bringing the vampire legend to life. These films captivated audiences and set the stage for future monster movies. In 1933, audiences were introduced to King Kong, a giant ape from a mysterious island. This film not only showcased groundbreaking special effects, but also tapped into deeper fears. Kong's capture and display in New York City can be seen as a reflection of colonial anxieties, symbolizing the exploitation of the unknown and the consequences of disrupting nature. Fast forward to 1954, and Japan released Godzilla. Unlike earlier monsters, Godzilla was a direct metaphor for the horrors of nuclear destruction. Emerging from the ocean after nuclear tests, Godzilla's rampage through Tokyo served as a stark reminder of the devastation caused by atomic bombs during World War II. This film resonated deeply with audiences, especially in a country that had experienced nuclear attacks firsthand. It was around the same time that movies like The Creature from the Black Lagoon and The Mummy delved into fears of the unknown. The Creature, a mysterious being from the Amazon, represented anxieties about uncharted territories and the potential dangers lurking within. Similarly, The Mummy explored the idea of ancient curses and the consequences of disturbing long-forgotten tombs, reflecting a fascination of fear and past civilizations. Universal Studios played a significant role in popularizing monster films, introducing iconic characters like Dracula, the Wolfman, and Frankenstein's monster. Modern era has introduced new creatures that reflect contemporary fears and societal issues. In the 1980s, slasher films became incredibly popular. Characters like Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th and Freddy Krueger from A Nightmare on Elm Street terrified audiences. Jason, with his hockey mask and relentless pursuit, symbolizes unstoppable evil. Freddy, who attacks teenagers in their dreams, represents personal trauma and the fear of being vulnerable even in sleep. These films tapped into deep-seated anxieties about safety and the unknown dangers lurking in everyday life. In 1993, Jurassic Park brought dinosaurs back to life through advanced science. This thrilling adventure also served as a cautionary tale about the dangers of playing with nature. Much like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, it highlighted the consequences of scientific hubris and the unforeseen results of manipulating life. The TV series Stranger Things introduced the Demogorgon, a terrifying creature from a parallel dimension. This monster blends 1980s nostalgia with elements of Lovecraftian horror, reflecting both a love for past pop culture and a fear of the unknown. The show captures the essence of childhood adventure while confronting the eerie and mysterious threats that lie beyond our understanding. Then, 21st Century introduced creatures that are more complex, terrifying, and thought-provoking than ever before. Take Cloverfield in 2008, for example. The movie follows a giant, destructive creature attacking New York City, but it's not just about the monster itself. This film reflects post-9/11 fears of sudden, catastrophic events and the helplessness people feel in the face of such disasters. The way the movie is filmed, like a home video, adds to the raw and chaotic feeling, making it all the more terrifying. In 2018, A Quiet Place brought us creatures that hunt by sound. The real horror here isn't just the monsters, it's the silence. The film shows a world where survival depends on suppressing even the smallest human instinct, making noise. In the 21st century, even zombies have evolved. In older movies, they symbolize simple fears of death or disease, but modern zombies have a whole new layer of meaning. Take The Walking Dead, for example. It's not just about surviving the undead, it's about the collapse of society and what happens when systems we depend on crumble. Aliens also remain a powerful symbol in 21st century monster storytelling. Movies like Arrival in 2016 and Nope in 2022 explore the fear of the unknown and the possibility of invasion. In the past, alien monsters often symbolized Cold War anxieties, like in the War of the Worlds. But today, aliens often represent something broader, our fear of being misunderstood or overwhelmed by something far beyond our control. Now, let's talk about the shift to anti-heroes, a fascinating trend in monster stories. Look at Godzilla. When the creature first appeared in 1954, it symbolized destruction and the horrors of nuclear war. But over the years, Godzilla evolved into something unexpected, a protector. In movies like Godzilla, King of the Monsters 2019, Godzilla isn't the villain, it's a force of balance, fighting other dangerous creatures to save the Earth. This transformation shows how our perception of monsters has changed. We now see them as necessary forces in a chaotic world. Today, a new kind of monster has emerged, one that isn't flesh and blood, but code and circuits. Artificial intelligence, or AI, has become a modern-day monster, reflecting humanity's fear of its own creations. Unlike zombies or aliens, AI isn't lurking in a dark corner. It's already here, shaping our lives in ways we might not even realize. And that's what makes it so fascinating and so terrifying. Movies like Ex Machina in 2015 and the Matrix franchise explore the darker side of AI. In Ex Machina, an advanced AI named Ava gains self-awareness and manipulates her creator to escape. This raises unsettling questions. What happens if AI becomes smarter than us? Can we control it, or will it control us? These stories tap into fears about technology, surpassing human intelligence and becoming unpredictable, like Frankenstein's monster. But now, the stakes feel even higher, because we're actively building these systems. What makes 21st century monsters so compelling is that they're not just physical threats. They reflect our modern fears of technology, global crises, and even our own humanity. So, what do you think is the scariest monster of our time, and why? And what do you think about AI as the modern monster? Let us know down in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this dive into the history of monsters, hit that like button and subscribe to Mr. History for more fascinating stories. Until next time.